Good morning, Warzone kids. It's a beautiful cold day on the Trail to the Western Lands here on the Vermont section. It's 4 degrees, but I'm toasty warm. My truck is warm. I even got a heated seat. Not even Julius Caesar himself could have dreamt of such a luxury. Warzone kids is my term for those of us like myself. I'm a child sex abuse survivor. And as an adult, I live with borderline personality disorder. I'm a recovering addict and bulimic. Warzone kids is my term for those of us like myself that grew up in a childhood that resembled a low-grade guerrilla war, or maybe a really acute shooting war, instead of a warm, supportive nursery where your psyche, your soul, yourself got what it needed. And I think of our psyche, our soul, who we are, as a Jenga tower. You know that game where you start off with a solid block of wood that's made up of smaller blocks. With every turn, you take off one of the blocks and you set it on top. And by the end of the game, the tower falls over because that's how the game ends. And for us Warzone kids, a lot of us enter adulthood with a psyche that's like that Jenga tower. It's a tall, unsteady, shaky thing. Because with every bit of harm, abuse, and neglect, pieces of that Jenga tower get taken off the bottom where they're solid, and they get put up on top where it makes it more rickety. As I say, I'm a child sex abuse survivor. That tends to take a lot of blocks out of the lower portions of the Jenga tower because you get alienated from yourself. Things happen to you that you are not equipped to understand, except that you can't tell nobody about it. You don't know that there is anything to tell, but you couldn't tell it anyway. You don't know. It's just how the world is. And you grow up split from yourself, and in my case, certainly split from the rest of the world. You may have had societal harm, you may have had physical abuse, psychological harm, emotional harm. My story is one of psychological harm and emotional harm, and sexual harm, really, more than anything else. You may have had a lot of physical abuse. You may have had psychological, you may have had societal, racial harm, we can call it like that. You may have grown up in a society where the kind of human being that you are, my fellow human creature, was just deemed not okay. And you are okay just the way you are, but that might not have been how you grew up. All these things can lead up to you having a war zone psyche and a war zone childhood. And I'm talking to you. Thanks a lot for the engagement. I've had several comments related to like other stuff that I've written. And so I want to do a little piece. I'll do a little piece, tell you about each of the things I've written, and I'll link to them. If I can get fancy and make my background be a picture of the cover of stuff, I'll do that, but I don't know if I can figure that out. I started writing in 2017, really, at a time in my life when things were really falling apart. For me, my Jenga tower was collapsing. Actually, one of several times my Jenga tower has collapsed in life. And first thing I wrote was kind of the obligatory memoir. And there's a saying that all writers have 250,000 bad words in them that they have to get out first. I don't know about bad words. They're just words. You do the best you can. But I know what that means. You kind of, writing is a thing, writing and performing are things that teach you how to do them. No one else can tell you. They teach you how to do them while you're doing it. You condition yourself to writing, to learning how to write by writing. And so I think I've probably got out about 250,000 words by now. And I think they're getting better. But I'll tell you what, each of these things I've written that I'm going to tell you about, I'll stand by them 100%. As faithful snapshots of my psyche and my soul where I was at the time. They all kind of make me cringe because I'm not in the same place. You know, I'm kind of a change-oriented guy because I need to change. The guy that I am is an adult child sex abuse survivor living with borderline personality disorder, and I'm a recovering addict and bulimic. And there's a high level of torment in the thoughts that went through my mind as a child and in the psyche I lived in as a child. And writing is a way that I've come to get in touch with myself. So the first thing I wrote is a memoir called Fury and Grace. And you look down the borderline personality disorder checklist and you see stuff about wildly swinging emotions, difficulty hanging on to, the middle part of the pendulum swing. You kind of go from ecstasy to rage to hate to love to obsessive interest to apathy. And that pendulum just swings back and forth. So I call that thing fury and grace. Not because I was aware of the things I just told you at the time. At the time I wrote that book, I was living in a world where my psyche was a pendulum that swung between fury and grace, between agony and ecstasy. You know, like the wide world of sports, you got the agony and the ecstasy, you got the gold medal, and then you got that ski jumper flinging himself off the side. Yeah. And really, more than anything else, fury and grace was me telling the story of myself to myself as I experienced it at the time. I did not really know what an audience was, like you. I did not really know how to talk to you. I could not really get out of my own head very much at the time. And I've learned, I hope, I'm talking to you right now. I'm doing my best to put my heart and soul into this, into talking to you right now. And that's kind of a conditioning that, to whatever extent I've got it at all, it's developed over time. And so fury and grace is me telling the story of myself to myself as I saw it at the time. And I'll stand by it. It's got some great stories in it. At the time I wrote it, I had just ended a period of my life when I was heavily involved in organized labor. And if you watch the SideQuest videos on this channel, the SideQuest into the Union Briar Patch, you'll see what I mean. I spent 3 years as president of a state chapter of the AFL-CIO. I was president of a statewide union. And that was a time in my life when I had, when I was really living in the desire to be a big fish in a small pond. Getting status from other people was very important to me at the time. And it's amazing when you're that kind of person. How small of a pond do you have to find in order to be a big fish? You can be the president of a country, and that's a small, you still have the psyche of a person who wants to be a big fish in a small pond. It's just that the pond that you can be a big fish in is pretty big. You know what I mean? Or you're one of these, publicity hungry billionaires or something like that. Big fish in a small pond. Well, Vermont politics was the size of the pond that I found. Vermont's a great state, about 600,000 people. And here's how you get involved in politics in Vermont. You decide that you want to get involved in politics in Vermont, and voila, you are. You can reach your state legislature. You can get yourself in front of the governor if you like. He usually gives a speech or some kind of press conference once a week down at the State House. You can walk in there and probably ask a question. So as president of the union, I was a lobbyist for it. And I had an experience in there. I'll just tell you one little experience in that book. It's really wrenching experience for me at the time. As I said, I was really relishing and wallowing in the level of high status that I had at the time. I was president of a union, and it doesn't really matter how big or small it is. If you're president of something, then there's some group of people in whatever small of a world it is. You're president of your county dog catchers association, right? Well, that means there's other people around who aren't president, and if you're president of it, those people will treat you with high status. They'll defer to you, and they'll be interested in talking to you and all that. And man, that feels great. It's like a bath in warm milk. And man, is it distorting to your psyche, because the people around you, they stop treating you like the person that you are, because you've stopped being the person that you really are. And you've started being the person that you can convince other people you are. You've started wallowing in the fact, I'm the president. That's right. Right? And you get your self-worth from that. And I really wallowed in that. And what I didn't realize when I got into that was it also makes you a target. Because people have different attitudes toward the ape that has high status in their little society. It makes you a target. So there are people that don't like you because you're president of something. And they come at you because of that. And they despise you because of that for exactly the same reason that other people give you positive feedback. And that's unpleasant. But you got to take the good with the bad, and you got to learn to deal with it, and you do. So I had an experience while I was in the middle of doing that where I had a run-in with a state level politician, and I did something that he didn't like. And he decided to come after me, and he did. And he's better at it than I was. And he came after it in a way like he put out a story in the press at the time. And I'm talking very small. Like, this is a very small pond. The number of people who ever cared about this was very small. But he put out a story at the time saying he was going to put me under investigation for criminal violations. Now, that never transpired, and I was not guilty of any criminal violations or anything else. But that didn't stop him from saying it. And like that, my high status went to low status. And I remember the day that happened. There was a function I was going to. There was a meeting I was going to. I was going to MC it. We were given a labor award to the governor at the time, Peter Shumlin. And we were going to get Howard Dean there. He's a big fish in the pond of Vermont, still is. And Howard Dean was going to be there, and Peter Shumlin was going to be there, and I was going to get to be on the stage with them. And I felt great about that, because I was going to get to share the stage and MC the event and introduce them. And that morning, this bad stuff came out in the press. Johnson's going under investigation. The Attorney General needs to investigate him, throw him into clink. And everything turned upside down. Mathematics, the absolute value of a number is like, if you have 1 million, you could either put a positive sign in front of it or a negative sign in front of it. 1 million is 1 million, but it could be positive 1 million or negative 1 million. Before that story came out that morning, I was at positive 1 million. Oh, I was happy. After that story came out, I was at negative 1 million. I was humiliated. I was ashamed. My heart was pounding. I had to go to I had to MC that event. We put a lot of effort into it. Put a lot of turnout. We were going to get state reps and state senators and lobbyists and other people in organized labor. They were all going to come out. Johnson's going to be on the stage introducing these people. I had written my speeches. I was practicing them, all that. And now I was humiliated. People were thinking I'd done something wrong. They were thinking I was going to be let off in an orange jumpsuit. And I didn't know if I was. I went and I retained an attorney. I did not know what was going to happen. And let me tell you, pilgrims, it will get your attention when you think that the Attorney General might be casting an eye on you, opening up the book of criminal statutes and looking at you and seeing what he can make stick to you. It'll get your attention. And it got my attention in a bad way. And I remember that day and what happened in that meeting. I got up there and I introduced Peter Shumlin, and then I never got on stage again because I learned a lesson the hard way, which is in politics, you do whatever you can get away with. And Peter Shumlin and Howard Dean were not going to let some Momo, some Penny Annie, half-assed organized labor president MC them and be the boss of this event. So I got up there, and as I remember it, I introduced Peter Shumlin, and then I never got on stage again. He gave a speech, and then he introduced Howard Dean, and they never made any reference to me again. They gave out the awards to themselves. They emceed the whole event, and I never got on stage again. That's how you get played, boys and girls. Welcome to the small world of politics. That's how it works. I just got played. I just got booted off the stage at my own event. It was amazing. And the next day I went in the State House. And I felt raw. If you're a war zone kid, you know what shame and humiliation feel like? I felt mega shame and mega humiliation. I felt it bad. Everyone is looking at me. They'd read them stories. Everyone is looking at me, and all the positive feelings had turned to negative feelings. And they wouldn't talk to me. I was radioactive. And it's a funny thing about organized labor. It's a real polarizing thing. I spent about 20 years in it. I'm now a consultant on the management side. I'm a professional campaigner in that world. I kind of understand it. I've been on the labor side. I've been on the management side. I'm just a campaigner in that world. Well, when I was on the union side, about half the people you run into think you're great because you're on the union side. And about half the people you run into think you're human garbage because you're on the union side. Well, when that happened to me, about half the people thought that Johnson's a dirty dog. Look at what he done. But some of the people looked at me and said, man, that Johnson's a great guy. Look at what he did. He really put it to that state senator. He really showed him what's what. He flexed his muscle. I know there are some people that thought that kind of thing because they come up to me and whispered it to me. It was real interesting. But overwhelmingly, the feeling I had was shame, and I felt naked. I felt flayed and naked. I felt like a giant eyeball walking through that state house. Like I was floating above myself. And I learned, there's a phrase I learned from Pema Chodron, a Tibetan Buddhist writer. I'm sure she didn't come up with it, but I heard it first from her. She said, praise and blame are two sides of the same coin. Praise and blame are two sides of the same coin. And man, I learned the reality of that in a hard way. Because every last bit of my self-worth that I had got from my status as president of the union in front of other people, every last bit of my self-worth had flipped. And now it was self-loathing and self-hatred because I had made myself a hostage to what other people thought about me. I had decided that I was worth a lot and I was great because I had president in front of my name and I could convince other people that I was great and I was worth a lot because I had president in front of my name. That was the praise on that side of the coin. But every coin's got two sides to it. And now I was living in a world of blame where all that self-love turned into self-hatred and self-loathing. And all that praise turned to blame. And that warm milk that I was taking a bath in curdled. And I was taking a bath in sour milk, clotted, stuck to me, make me want to vomit. And I couldn't get out of it. I was president of the union. I had things I had to do. I had people I had to see. I couldn't get out of it. I was stuck in it. I was stuck in shame and humiliation, burning, feeling like an eyeball, feeling like I wasn't myself, like I didn't even live in the universe anymore. And that did it, boys and girls. After that day, I say that day because I remember walking around the State House that day, the day after that. I was done. I could not tolerate the level of shame and humiliation that I felt. I couldn't tolerate it. And I had to get out of it. I was just done. And I had to strip that self-loathing and that shame and hatred out of myself. And what I found when I did that, pilgrims, what I found when I got rid of the blame, the self-loathing and the self-hate that came from that blame, I found that the praise didn't mean anything to me anymore. It just didn't. I couldn't make the praise mean anything to me because I couldn't tolerate the pain of the blame. I had to get rid of it. I had to get rid of that side of the coin. But you can't get rid of only one side of the coin. If you embrace one side of the coin, you're embracing the other. If you get rid of one side of that coin, you're getting rid of both sides. And I had to get rid of both sides of that coin. I had to throw the whole coin out. No good. I could not, the praise didn't mean anything to me anymore. It couldn't. I had ripped the part out of my mind. I ripped it out, the blame. I didn't know that I was ripping out the praise as well. It was gone. No, I'm a human being. I'm a performer by nature. That's why I'm doing this. I did a one-man show this summer at the Hollywood Fringe Festival. You can watch it on my YouTube channel. Fury and Grace is what it's called. I love being in front of people. That's just part of who I am. But they don't tell me my worth. I love to connect with the audience. But that audience doesn't tell me what I'm worth. That audience is just that audience. And I'm a performer, and I still love being in front of them. I love being in front of you right now. But you don't tell me what I'm worth. I don't get that from you. I like the engagement, I like the good comments, but they don't make me worth something. Just like bad comments don't make me worth something. So that's a little story from Fury and Grace. I wrote the book, I love it. I love the cover art. I recorded the audio book. I'll put links to all this in the description of the video. And I hope you go buy it. It's a good book. I'll stand by it. It's got a lot of good stories in it. And it's a story of my life that I told myself up to that time. Now I'll tell you this, there's not one word in there about sexual abuse, about the fact that I'm a child sex abuse survivor, because I could not face those facts about myself. I could not face that aspect of my own psyche, my own experience as a human being. That dawning, I had the part of the 250,000 words you got to get out of the way. I had to get rid of the stories I was telling myself about myself. I had to tell them to myself in order to get around to seeing the reality of my life and the reality of what I was and the reality of what I am. And the reality that I'm a child sex abuse survivor is a big part of that. So if you get that book and you listen to it, I think you ought to listen to it. It's a great book. I loved recording the audiobook, and I imagined that I was talking to you the whole time I was doing it. I just imagined that I was telling you the story of the book right then and there. So I hope you get it and listen to it. I hope you get the book and read it if you want it. They're both great. Well, listen to that. They're both great. They're both, I'll stand by them. That's who I was at the time. I'm the same Ben, very same guy down to the bone, and I've been 100 different Bens since then. That's just how it is. But that's the story of Fury and Grace. I hope you go get it. I hope you listen to it. And I hope you leave a comment about it. And thanks for sticking with me on this part of the trail this morning. It's a beautiful day, and we can get in a lot of miles, cold as it is. It's down to 0 on this stretch of the highway. We can get a lot of miles, Pilgrim, and we got a lot to talk about. Let's walk them together.